Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 36, titled Baby Hold Your Hand 2 Never Ending My Dream, adapts just under 5 chapters worth of manga material, thus making it another manga focused episode with very little anime only additions. This latest episode adapts material from the beginning of chapter 640 all the way up until the midpoint of chapter 644. This is similar to last week's episode, which also adapts just under 5 chapters worth of manga content, which had covered the first half of Shunsui's battle against Lil Barrow. This week we see the second half of Mayuri vs Pernida, and episode 36 begins with chapter 640, where we see Nemu protecting Mayuri as he scolds her for being reckless. The first half of the episode adapts up to the end of chapter 642, where Nemu fires her Gikon Jurinju against Pernida in a last-ditch attack. Then the second half of the episode adapts material from chapter 643 to 644. This is where we see the death of Nemu, and we also have the return of Xyle Opero as a vision within Mayuri's mind. Now be sure to stick around until the very end of this video, because episode 36 does include a post-credit scene which features some anime original content. We do have quite a lot to talk about, so let's dive into the manga versus anime analysis of the latest episode of Bleach. Lastly, I will be refraining from talking about scenes which are one-to-one adaptations from the manga, and I'll solely be focusing on what has been cut, changed, and added to the anime. We got really tired of the same old boring anime shirts, so we decided to launch Getsuga.com with the aim of creating designs inspired by our favorite anime and manga. We came up with designs that look cool and represent all of our favorite stories. Check out the latest Instinct collection, which features some amazing designs like this Frosted Heavens design inspired by Toshiro Hitsugaya, or this Instinct design inspired by Holo Ichigo, and my personal favorite, which is the Heart design, which was inspired by Ukiura Shifa. Do not miss out, go to Getsuga.com and wear your favorite stories. So before the intro song, we have about 3 minutes worth of content which adapts chapter 640 in its entirety. So the episode covers pages 2 to 18 all the way up until Mayuri tells Nemu that she doesn't have the freedom to die of her own accord. Before we cut to the opening song, we then have the first page of chapter 640 adapted, and this is a scene showing us when Nemu had first awoken. I think the anime made an excellent decision to rearrange the placement of this one page, because it hints at the larger backstory of Nemu which we do get in this episode. Following the opening song, we begin by adapting manga material from chapter 641, as we see Nemu hand to Mayuri flesh healing medicine, and content from this chapter is adapted all the way up until the point where Mayuri's coagulating drug did not work on Pernida because it had evolved and adapted the abilities of Mayuri's modified Bankai. As Pernida is about to attack Mayuri, we see Nemu take action as she rushes towards her captain. So this is all of chapter 641 here. We then cut to the backstory of Nemu, which begins in chapter 642, as the entirety of that chapter is adapted until the midpoint of the episode. This includes content where Nemu uses the full capacity of her body to rescue Mayuri and then fire her Gikon Jurinju against Pernida. During the midpoint, we get 2 mid-cards. The first is on Ashisogi Jizo, as it explains that this is the Zanpakuto of the captain of the 12th Division Mayuri. In its Shikai state, a baby's face emerges from the base of the blade, and the blade's tip splits into 3 prongs. It also possesses the ability to paralyze the movements of those who it cuts by injecting poison into their body. The release command of Ashisogi Jizo is RIP, and its Bankai is Konjigi Ashisogi Jizo. This creates a massive caterpillar-like entity with a baby's face that emits poison capable of knocking out enemies in its vicinity. And the midcard also discusses the modified version of Mayuri's Bankai 2. The second midcard focuses on Nemu, explaining that her real name is Nemuri Nanago, and she is of course the lieutenant of the 12th Division. She's described as being one of Mayuri's creations, born from the Nemuri Project. The Nemuri Project was Mayuri's secret research initiative within the 12th Division, as it involves stripping away the concept of ethics in order to create new souls from nothing, as Mayuri's desire was to essentially create an artificial Shinigami. In some way, I think Urahara was researching something similar, where he had wanted to empower Shinigami, as he wanted to use hollows to strengthen Shinigami, since the Gote 13 is effectively a military military unit, but it seems like Mayuri surpassed Urahara in the sense that he was able to create an artificial Shinigami born from nothing. Nemuri Nanago is the 7th iteration of the Nemuri project, and via the backstory that we learn about Nemu, we learn about how the 6 others were failures, and how Nemu is the culmination of all of Mayuri's experiments. The second half of the episode begins by adapting material from chapter 643, and we immediately kick off with the death of Nemu. The anime does a fantastic job of elevating the manga content here, as we have an amazing vocal rendition of the song Here to Stay playing, which adds such an emotional touch to this moment. I cannot lie, I was feeling goosebumps and I was getting really teary-eyed seeing the death of Nemu. Then immediately following this, we have the highly anticipated return of Xyloopero, as he returns as a figment of Mayuri's imagination, as he taunts Mayuri for being a hypocrite, especially after the speech on perfection that he had given to Xyloopero during the Huecomundo arc. Mayuri's sadness following the death of Nemu is a contradiction to what he had told to Xyloopero. This was very important for the anime to get right because this was a huge key moment for Mayuri's character, and the anime does a fantastic job of faithfully adapting this content. Not a single panel or line of dialogue has been cut, everything has been retained in its entirety, as all of chapter 643 is faithfully adapted into the episode. We reach the end of content from chapter 643 at the point where Mayuri explains that Pernida was self-destruct from excessive growth after it devours the remains of Nemu's body. Then the first 9 pages of chapter 644 are adapted before the episode ends. This involves Mayuri collapsing due to Pernida twisting his legs as Ikkaku and Yumichika arrive to assist him. Mayuri also explains that a couple of healing pods are there which contain the bodies of Hitsugaya and Rangiku as they finally return to the battlefield, with Mayuri and Kinpachi being placed into their respective pods, with Ikkaku and Yumichika thanking Mayuri for helping Kinpachi. Episode 36 ends with Mayuri stating that he has surpassed Urahara, as Mayuri bows out of the 1000-Year Blood War arc as he solidified his position as the MVP of this final arc of Bleach. I really do hope that we get to see Mayuri again maybe in Core 4 after he's healed up, because there is a lot of opportunity for anime original content in the 4th and final core of this series. The post-credit scene for episode 36 expands upon some manga material, and this is in regards to Giselle and Lil Toto from chapter 635. We had seen them confront Yhwach and they were defeated, but this post-credit scene expands their role within the story, as Giselle has brought alongside with her the zombified Bambietta, Meninas and Candice. So essentially all of the 5 Bambis are here to storm the castle, and this anime original scene they are confronted by a group of Soldat, but after a initial series of attacks it's revealed that these Soldat are no ordinary Quincy, as it appears as though they have been created from the black oozing energy of Yhwach after he had absorbed the Soul King. You can see this black goo take the shape of their body with these eyes of the Almighty all over their face. No doubt these soldiers are connected to the body of Yhwach, so Yhwach must be anticipating that the Bambis have returned. Following this, we cut to a brief scene which alters manga content from chapter 630. So in the anime, Haschwald asks why is Uryu at Ain's Ast, as he orders the soldiers not to let Uryu out of their sight. So this is our first hint at Haschwald having some form of suspicion on Uryu's actions. Now following this, we cut to the arrival of Baz B, as several panels of the manga are cut, as instead this entire page of chapter 630 is then adapted where Baz B arrives in front of Haschwald, as he asks if Uryu really bothers him that much, with Haschwald asking what he is doing, with Baz B responding shouldn't he be asking how he is still alive, with Baz B inferring that Haschwald knew that Yhwach was going to betray all of the Sternritter, including him. So while Haschwald's interaction with Baz B remains the same, it's actually Haschwald speaking to the subordinate soldiers where he gives them the order to follow Uryu, which has been altered. So in chapter 630 of the manga, only one soldier is present, as he updates Haschwald that the Schutzstaffel has been dispatched in 5 directions to locate the enemy. Haschwald then questions the underling, asking 5 directions, as he questions whether if Uryu Ishida is included in what he is referred to as the Schutzstaffel. The soldier states that yes, as it was Yhwach's order to include Uryu within the Schutzstaffel. Haschwald then questions which way is Uryu headed, as the soldier states that Uryu is headed towards the 2nd branch of the Vandenreich city, as he then orders the soldier to go after him. He explains to the soldier that he cannot leave Varavelt, and for him to stay with Uryu, and if he does anything outside of what was ordered, the soldier needs to come and report it to him immediately. Then we have this entire internal monologue where Haschwald states that it was careless of him to allow Uryu to act alone after all of this. He He states that without the Sternritter, there is nobody there to keep an eye on Uryu. If Uryu was accepted into the Schutzstaffel, it would have been easy for him to be trusted with a solo mission, and this is what Hashwal was concerned with. So Hashwal then tells a soldier what is he waiting for as he orders him to go, but before he can really set off, Bazby arrives and eliminates the soldier. As you can see in the anime, this has been altered with 4 soldiers present in front of Hashwal, but instead of just 1 being eliminated, Bazby eliminates 4 in the anime. Again, there's a huge difference because Hashwal's suspicions have been toned down massively within the anime in comparison to the manga, as all of this material from chapter 630 has been altered and significantly changed. So that was the 10th episode of Core 3, and everything is shaping up for a climactic finale where we see the end of Shunsui versus Lil Barrow in the next episode, and the major fight of Core 3 Hashwad versus Bazby, which has been rearranged and left for the end of the season. The post-credit scene in this episode does a great job of setting up the finale, and I hope that we do have some anime exclusive material which fleshes out the backstory of Bazby and Hashwad even more. And I do hope that their fight has a bit more screen time and emotional impact, because their battle, while it was great within the manga, I thought that it could have been improved with some additional padding, just for the story to solidify the fractured relationship between these 2 childhood friends turned into bitter rivals. Now, I want to know what all of you think of this week's episode of Bleach. Do you think that the anime did a good job of adapting this week's manga content? What are your thoughts about the finale of Mairi vs Pernida? Did you get goosebumps or feel emotional after seeing the death of Nemu? And what do you think about the incredible return of Xylopero? I look forward to reading all of your thoughts in the comments. Lastly, thanks for making it to the end of the video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel because I will be back next week for my review and manga versus anime breakdown of episode 37 titled Shadows Gone. So I'm super excited to talk about the next episode of Bleach with all of you. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.